Is she cute? Good morning. I'd like you to rise in body and or spirit and sing our welcoming music, hymn number 361 in the great hymnal, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In, and we're singing all 5 verses, okay? Go for it. Jackie, and I'll be your worship associate for this service. This service is being broadcast live on YouTube and will be available as a recording on the UUFCC YouTube channel after the service. This is probably a good time to turn off your phones. And for those of you joining us virtually, you may wish to have a chalice or candle available for a chalice lighting ritual. We are using first names and last initials to protect our privacy. Welcome to those who are watching on YouTube, and welcome to here at the fellowship. Yippee, yay! Here we go. Each week we gather together, even as we are in different places, and whether our sacred space be virtual or live. You are welcome here at UUFCC no matter who you are, no matter your race or your identity. No matter who you love, no matter where you came from, no matter your background or spiritual journey. We know you come here for different reasons: to find community, to seek your spiritual and personal truth, to ask questions, to nurture and be nurtured, to explore new ideas. We come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We trust you will find something you need here: comfort, connection, challenge, and love. And we hope you will find ways to help others. If you are new here, please stand or wave as you are comfortable and tell us who you are and where you came from. Anybody new here today? Oh, good. We have some new. Okay.
Check.
Hello, I'm Michael. This is my daughter, Azelle, and my mother, Patricia. We've just moved to the area.
Welcome.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
We are glad you've chosen to spend... Whoa, and one more. Oh, please, young lady.
Oh, by all means.
Hi, my name's Aubrey. I'm from the Animal Welfare League. I'm going to be speaking in a little bit, so you'll hear more about me in a minute.
Yay! Welcome. We are glad you've chosen to spend your Sunday morning with us. Much gratitude to everyone who has contributed to making today's service happen, including our greeters, the decorating team who makes this space so beautiful, those who are keeping the grounds looking great, Tom, who is working in the Peace Garden, and our tech team, Tom, Corey, and Doug. our behind the scenes folks, our office, worship associates, our board, and the people who clean these areas. And those who are taking turns caring for us by making coffee, goodies, and cleaning up after the service. Aheen, Trudy, and Betty. And now we'll have the prelude by Margaret. Our chalice lighting this morning is by Reverend Karen LeBlanc. We have the permission secured by Soul Matters. This isn't just a place of worship. This isn't just a fellowship of like minds. This isn't just a Sunday morning filled with spirit and topped off with coffee and cookies. This is our church. our congregation, where we are building beloved community, where we are opening ourselves to each other, where we trust and love, rise and fall together. This is where we feel safe. This is where we know we are welcomed. This is where we belong. For this gift and for so many others, we light our chalice. And now, as AJ lights the chalice, please join me in reciting our affirmation that's printed in the order of service. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. Thank you, AJ. Please rise in body or spirit in hymn number 298 in the gray hymnal, Wake Not My Senses. Am I on? I'm on. Oh, okay. The opening words this morning are by Reverend Scott Taylor. And you know, Tom told me beforehand, wait for my signal. Got it. Okay. May this honored hour become that path which brings us back to our center, back to that place of belonging, to what is true, what is deepest within us, and what knows us even before we know ourselves. In this space, may we come to remember that we are held and we welcome whole, without any need to hide or withhold a single piece or part of who we are. It is our tradition here that we have a book of life that offers you the opportunity to share your joys, sorrows, and life milestones with the rest of us by writing them in the red book, which is in the back of the room. Is there anything in there? None? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Looks like this is Chris and Christina. Oh, I keep forgetting that silly thing. Okay, here we go. The Unitarian Universalist of I think it's England, Northeast, are alive and well for a recent visit to New Hampshire, Maine. Woo! Yay, I'm glad we're alive and well there. Now, we also have a tradition of having people place stones in the bowl. The water symbolizes the community, and the stones represent your joy or sorrow. This is the time to briefly share that which is most sacred to you. There will be a time for announcements later in the service. Please be aware that we are creating a permanent record of these moments on YouTube. So anyone who would like to come up and put a stone in the water, you're more than welcome.
Good morning, I'm Patrick E. I have a joy. Last week I went to Massachusetts and visited Vermont. It was wonderful to be in the leaves, and the leaves are starting to change, and visited a friend, Denny Fuller, from the Venice UU Church. And he has a A-frame in the woods. But I happened to be a Pride event while I was up there in Springfield. I went, and there was a new P-Flag chapter. They just started. Don't even have their business cards. So we connected, and it was just a very nice to be with nature and everything. So I had a good time.
Good morning, I'm Lynn. I'm here to let you know about our dear Joseph F., our Vice President, and my dear partner. He had a kidney stone Friday morning and was taken to Sarasota Memorial, had a lithotripsy late Friday afternoon. So he's home recovering, thinking of all of you, and has asked me to step in and do his drop-in chalice circle after the service later. So I will do that.
I'm Jackie D. This is Zach D. He wanted to come up and share some good news, I think.
Yes. I have won all basketball games I've played.
Woo! All right! Woohoo!
Thank you.
Even though I'm shrinking, I still need it higher. I am just so overjoyed. Yesterday I volunteered about 4.5 hours at the Peace River Botanical and Sculpture Gardens. And it was so fun. They had a butterfly and origami festival. And I was supposed to be 3 hours there, but I had an extra hour because it's so fun talking to people and being amongst all the beauty. One guy and I kind of repaired the waterfall. I mean, for some reason he came up to me and figured I wanted to fix it. And we found out there were too many rocks at the base. I'm getting to know they're horticulturalist. I might even do docent at some point. And if anybody hasn't been there, it's in Punta Gorda, and it's just a beautiful place. Very small compared to my Illinois Arboretum. But it's just a love of mine to be in nature, and it's just very serene. It's so, their festivals are absolutely wonderful. They have children activities, which I participated in, and they had blues music, they had rock music, they had more folk music and blues music, but it was just spectacular. And now the origami is there for people to see. So I hope you check it out. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Corey. Today I have a sorrow. My life is just full of those, aren't they, Jackie? So Friday, an old friend of mine, his mom passed. I forgot how old she was, but she passed from cancer. She was like a second mom to me during a very, very dark part of my life. So I wanted to put this stone in for her.
I'm Margaret, and I wanted to share that my husband Jamie is back with us today. Yeah, He was in the hospital for 6 weeks. He's doing much better. Thank you.
This last stone, I'm not on yet, am I? I'm on? Okay. This last stone represents unspoken joys and sorrows in our hearts. May we hold these and each other in love and tenderness, so that this fellowship may be a source of strength and comfort, courage and hope in the days and weeks ahead. We'll have some meditation music by Margaret. Margaret, that was beautiful. Thank you. Now, it is my pleasure to have our guest speaker today, our very own Dennis.
Good morning. Since my precious little dog Bosco died at the end of August, I've had some really difficult days. My sleep and eating have been disrupted. I thought I was getting sick, resulting in the cancellation of our worship committee meeting on Monday. Then while unloading the dishwasher, I banged my head on an open cabinet door, causing me to fall and twist my left ankle and wrist. Add to that, that the garbage disposal died and under the sink had to be completely replumbed, and several other disasters. The last one being that my old iron finally died, so hence. On last Tuesday, while preparing for this service, my iPad was hacked. That was followed by a long visit to the bank and hours on the phone informing Social Security and the NC retirement office and my creditors that I have a new checking account. Finally, on Thursday morning at 4:30, I woke from a terrible dream. I was standing behind this pulpit without anything to say. And you and I just stared at each other in anger and disappointment. It was clear I was not going to go back to sleep, nor was I going to finish the presentation that I was working on for this Sunday. So I began repeating a mantra that our beloved former minister, Reverend Amy Kindred, taught me. It came from the writings of a 14th century religious hermit, St. Julian of Norwich, England. Historians believe that she was the first woman to write in vernacular Middle English instead of Latin. For me, repeating her words calmed my mind and my heart. The mantra is amazingly simple, and I'm going to teach it to you. All will be well, all will be well. In the manner of things, all will be well. So I'll say it again, and you repeat it after me. All will be well. All will be well. All will be well. All will be well. In the manner of things, all will be well. In the manner of things, all will be well. After about half an hour of meditating and chanting St. Julian's words, I felt peaceful and centered. Then it occurred to me that I have a large rectangular wicker basket that's filled with stories and presentations that I've written during the last 15 years. The very first file I opened held stories that I believe fit beautifully with this month's Soul Matters theme, building belonging. This presentation is entitled Lessons from the Ruling Elder, and it was written for this congregation in June of 2013. In preparation for this service, I spent hours thinking about my father and the church of my childhood. These memories generated a few stories, and I want to share these with you along with the lessons I gained from them. My father was a committed Christian, so before I could write these reflections, I had to revisit my Christian past. It certainly isn't the first time I've made that journey, but this time I traveled with a rediscovered respect and care, even reverence. Before I begin my stories, I want to briefly introduce you to the main character. William Henry Shaw was born to Anna and George Shaw in 1920. His youth was spent in a small coal town along the Monongahela River in southwestern Pennsylvania. After graduation from high school in 1938, Dad enrolled at Johnson Bible College in Tennessee. At this point in his life, he intended to become a minister. However, that dream died when the United States entered World War II. My father enlisted in the United States Army on March 29, 1942, and was sent to pilot training school in Waco, Texas. In February of the following year, 18-year-old Laverne Lucille Ginn boarded a train in Pittsburgh bound for Waco. There, on the 13th of February, wearing a suit that she had sewn en route, my mother married my father in the manse of the Central Christian Church. By the end of July 1943, First Lieutenant William Shaw was assigned to the 473rd Army Air Forces. During the following 2 years, he was involved in air combat in the Balkans, southern France, Italy, and northern Africa. My mother and father were reunited in early spring of 1945 when he was assigned to a highly secretive radar project in Northern California. After their extended California honeymoon, Bill, Laverne, and their golden cocker spaniel, Blondie, made a harrowing cross-country trip in a 1937 Willys station wagon. Their destination was Elizabeth, Pennsylvania, a midpoint between two sets of parents. Elizabeth was built on the east bank of the Monongahela River, 15 miles south of Pittsburgh. The town was founded in 1787 and had two claims to fame. In 1803, the keelboat used for the first stages of the Lewis and Clark expedition was built there. And from 1956 to 1963, Elizabeth hosted a Nike anti-aircraft missile site. Now, the first of these claims has been disputed, but I can verify that that frightening anti-aircraft missile tower was for real. I've always believed that Elizabeth's real claim to fame is that a community with fewer than 500 households could support 15 churches and 15 bars. On October 26, 1945, William and Laverne purchased their first home for $5,500. It was just outside the borough of Elizabeth. Their small 1.5-story frame home was located on the first plateau of the very steep Patterson Hill. The house was surrounded by ample flat ground that eventually produced large annual gardens, grapes, a variety of fruit trees, and served as a range for grown-up Easter chicks, rabbits, and even a pair of goats. The property included an ancient barn with a hayloft and was surrounded by steep, path-filled woods and large rock outcroppings. Our property on Patterson Hill was a wonderful playground. There was just one major drawback to this idyllic setting. A huge coke factory that produced fuel for the U.S. Steel mills was located directly across the river. Photographs taken during the 1950s from the backyard of our first home could serve as postcards from hell. Around the clock, tall, phallic-shaped stacks belched red smoke and ash. These fiery chimneys actually provided dramatic visual relief from the rows of filthy, rectangular U.S. Steel buildings. The air on Patterson Hill had a distinct chemical flavor and carried the constant clanging, banging, hissing, and whistling sounds of trucks, trains, and tugboats. The rainbows over our neighborhood included hues of rust and charcoal, and the nights were starless. The First Presbyterian Church of Elizabeth was my family's second home. My brothers, Billy, Bobby, Jimmy, Tommy, and I were baptized there. Mandatory weekly attendance at Sunday school classes and worship services began at 5 and ended the Sunday after high school graduation. Adjusting for rare vacations, illnesses, and blizzards, the 5 Shaw boys donned starched white shirts, clip-on ties, and this estimation, but they put, let me start that one again. The 5 Shaw boys donned starched white shirts, clip-on ties, and freshly polished shoes around 3,000 times. This estimation is based on the 36 perfect attendance pins I found in a tin sewing box after my mother's death. The building which houses the First Presbyterian Church of Elizabeth was constructed in 1851 at the corner of 3rd Avenue and Brick Hill, 3 short blocks from the river. From its inception, our church was the stepchild or town congregation of the wealthy 18th century Round Hill Presbyterian, or as it was commonly known, the country church. The two churches were served by the same minister and officers until 1957, and then the congregation split, and my father became the first ruling elder of the town church. The first lesson my father taught me about the church occurred early one Sunday morning following a major snowfall. I remember our 53 two-tone white over blue Bel Air being fitted with chains in preparation for the slide down Patterson Hill. This ride was particularly memorable because Mom embraced her whole brood in the back seat. She was supposed to sit in the front next to Dad. After sliding through the stop sign at the bottom of the hill, the Bel Air came to rest in a field between the railroad tracks and the road. Eventually, with the aid of a shovel, planks, and red dog ash, my father spun the car into dual ruts, and we slowly and silently made progress towards the borough and the church. I remember how different Elizabeth looked, covered with a fresh blanket of heavy, wet snow. Our little town was so clean and so very, very quiet. The only sounds I remember are the chattering of the chains and my mother's nervous concerns that she would be late for choir practice. When we finally arrived at the church, my father parked on the sidewalk directly in front of the red brick building. No one else had arrived. My mother had excellent herding instincts. With ample barks and snaps, she could maneuver her 5 sons in record time. But on this particular Sunday, she anticipated delays. So we left for church much earlier than usual. She had missed the phone tree call that conveyed the unthinkable. The minister had canceled the service. While my father checked the empty building, Mom and babies Jimmy and Tommy supervised the creation of a snowman in the small elevated churchyard. When Dad was satisfied that the building had weathered yet another storm, he interrupted our play and we piled into the back seat. Just as we were about to depart, Dad spotted Miss Mildred Smith, an octogenarian who precariously was trudging down a rut in the middle of the street. My father leaped mounds to her side, and together they struggled up the snow-covered steps into the foyer of First Presbyterian Church. Under my mother's directions, we all piled out of the Bel Air and followed. After shedding snowsuits, coats, hats, scarves, gloves, and boots, my father led Miss Smith and our family into the minister's study. This room was constituted the Holy of Holies in our church. This was the room where the minister worked and the session met. This was a room that children did not enter unless they were in big trouble. But this was the only room with a space heater. Miss Smith had been snowbound since the previous Sunday's service and was delighted to have the company of anyone, even squirming children. After initial pleasantries, my father opened our impromptu service with prayer, followed by readings from both the Old and New Testaments. My mother, an accomplished soprano, led the singing of the doxology. Then we took turns sharing things that we were grateful for. Mom gave thanks for our safety. I praised the snow. On that cold winter morning, my father taught me this lesson. Sometimes in the life of a religious community, it's enough to just show up. The following Sunday, Miss Mildred Smith decided to join my father and his sons in the unofficial Shaw pew. Our pew was in the second row on the left side of the sanctuary. This location allowed my mother direct visual contact from the choir loft. The Shaw boys learned very early to read her eyes. Miss Smith wore a stole of mink foxes over the shoulders of her Sunday suit and carried lifesavers in the black leather purse to reward quiet children. Unfortunately, it took more than candy to keep me still, so with some trepidation, Miss Smith let me play with her daisy chain of butt-biting, glass-eyed furry critters. I especially liked how the end minks had attachment clips that moved when they were squeezed. They were like tiny little mouths. The disaster occurred during the recitation of the 4th century Nicene Creed. In the middle of the phrase, "I believe in the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church," Reverend Wallace noticed that the tiny mouths of Miss Smith's minks were in perfect sync with the congregation's recitation. He burst into laughter, causing every head to turn in the direction of my disrespect. In an instant, Miss Smith's foxes were at home around her neck, and my father's hand was tightening around mine. My mother's stare escalated my fright into hysteria. And by the time Reverend Wallace giggled through, "I acknowledge one baptism for the remission of sins," I was being propelled towards the minister's soundproof office. The lesson I learned that Sunday was that puppets, even if they are real minks, are not members of the Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. And crayons are a much safer medium for expression during services. I also expect that that was the morning the seed of Unitarianism was planted in my soul. I know the exact Sunday that I became a Universalist. I was 12 years old and had just become an official communion receiving member. Prior to the service, I was attending Carl Williams' Sunday school class. Mr. Williams had a very strong Calvinistic orientation and maintained a long list of folks who would burn in hell. By 12, I had developed some abstract thinking skills and the confidence to challenge Mr. Williams' teachings. I simply reasoned out loud that it didn't make sense that a loving God would send people who had never heard of Jesus to eternal damnation. Once again, I was roughly led by the scruff of my neck into the minister's study, where my father, the ruling elder, along with his 11 peers and the minister, were preparing for the communion service. Mr. Williams demanded that my membership be revoked. The crisis was quickly resolved when my father assured Carl that he'd beat the hell out of me when we returned home. He must have succeeded because I still don't believe it. He also taught me that committing a heresy can be very painful. The First Presbyterian Church of Elizabeth was the religious home for numerous children, and his sons, and as his sons aged, my father's roles as a religious educator evolved. Over the years, he served as a Sunday school teacher, senior high youth sponsor, a Boy Scout leader, and eventually he even accepted the role of Sunday school superintendent. I remember when Dad built stacks of cribs for the babies. The nursery at the First Presbyterian resembled a dog pound, but clearly the little cages created with scrap steel kept the infants safe from the sensory motor explorations of the roaming toddlers. My father knew every child in the church by his or her first name. Excuse me. One of his favorites was Kenny Sparks. Kenny was born with Down syndrome and moderate mental retardation, and he required significant support and supervision. He was also the butt of numerous mean comments and tricks. The words retard and moron were frequently used when addressing or describing Kenny, until the Sunday that my father overheard one of these slurs. My father commanded that the entire fifth grade Sunday school class, of course minus Kenny, march into the minister's study. Once Dad realized we were significantly frightened and quite attentive, he firmly closed the door. The tone and volume of his voice conveyed his anger, disappointment over the way we tormented Kenny. Long before the phrase became popular, my dad asked each one of us these questions. If Jesus walked into our church today and met Kenny, how would he treat him? What would Jesus do? Our answers were muffled, stuttered, and filled with shame. The following Sunday, Kenny was treated very differently. I think that was the first time I considered that all people deserve care and respect. I will never forget a phone call that I received about 15 years later, shortly after I had begun a career as a special education teacher. My father called with very shocking and sad news. Kenny Sparks had been brutally murdered under the Route 51 bridge. It was one of the few times I heard my father cry. Spring flooding was an annual occurrence in southwestern Pennsylvania. But in 1966, the year I received my driver's license, the polluted Monongahela River attempted to swallow the borough of Elizabeth and all of its inhabitants. My family had moved to the suburbs about 5 miles from the borough in 1959. Our Dutch colonial was across the road from the highest elevation in Allegheny County. We were miles away from the crest of the flooding river. Ironically, we and our neighbors were without water. A main supply line had broken. As expected, my parents volunteered once again to set up a rescue shelter at the First Presbyterian Church. It was the first year I was invited to help. My younger brothers were left in the care of a neighbor, and I was instructed to drive my father's old Chevy truck that carried a 16-foot aluminum rowboat. I had specific instructions to follow Mom and Dad to church because the normal route was flooded. My parents traveled in Dad's midlife crisis car, a 1959 red and white Ford Galaxy 500 hardtop convertible, complete with silver rear wheel skirts. When we arrived at the church, I retrieved the folding cots and blankets from the storage loft above the rear of the sanctuary. By late afternoon, I was set free to explore. I rowed our little fishing boat down First Avenue. That experience was surreal. As dusk approached, I returned to the church to find a nearly full shelter and very busy parents. My father asked me to return home to see if the Highland Meadows water pipe break had been repaired. As I started down the hall, he called me back and handed me the keys to the Ford. I'd never driven it before. When I entered our 3-story house through the basement door, I experienced a major shock. Water was pouring through the ceiling and down the stairs. Much to my credit, I remembered that water and electricity do not mix, and I cut the main circuit breaker. Then as I sloshed through the dark kitchen, I realized that our house was in worse shape than those I rode past that afternoon. On the 3rd floor, I discovered the source of our flood. The bathtub valves had been left open, and somehow the stopper had been flicked closed. Water had been restored early that morning, and the tub had been overflowing for 8 hours. By the time I completed a survey of the damage, I was violently shivering. In the dark downstairs bedroom closet, I found a large warm coat, one dry boot, and what I thought was a shoe. Feeling warmer, but even more panicked, I ran out the front door and then instinctively returned and locked it. I headed to the church via Jackstown Road. At the intersection of Lovedale Hollow, I discovered that the bridge was submerged. Slowly, I rotated the big Galaxy on a narrow 2-lane road that was bordered by thick woods and running water. As I accelerated up the hill, without warning, a huge tree uprooted and fell across the car's hood, blocking both front doors. So I had to climb over the seat and squeeze out the right rear door and hike to the nearest house. The gentleman that answered the door was surprised, to say the least. Probably shock is a better word, but after hearing my plight, he drove me to the church via Route 51. I returned to the church almost 2 hours late, wearing my dead grandmother's Persian lamb coat, a boot, and slipper, and announced to my very worried parents that their house was flooded and Dad's beautiful car was wrecked. My dad held us as Mom and I cried. After we calmed, Dad asked if I had pulled the main circuit breaker and locked the doors. Then he was very quiet for several long minutes. Both Mom and I assumed that he would jump into his truck and drill drain holes in the ceiling, or at least go and survey the damage. Instead, he calmly stated, "We're needed here. Go see if there are 3 more cots." On that cold March night, my father taught me a core value of his faith. We need to care for those in need, because in reality, we are floating in the same boat. My last story is set in a very different place and time, Inglewood, Florida, during the midsummer of 2008. During the last 6 months of his life, Dad was visited weekly by Pastor Dave, an associate minister from the Inglewood United Methodist Church. I really don't know much about what Dad and Pastor Dave talked about. I typically excused myself, respecting their privacy. About a month before my father died, Pastor Dave asked that I remain in the living room during his visit. About a month before my father died, Pastor Dave asked that I remain in the living room during his visit. He wanted to discuss my father's wishes for his memorial service. 7 years earlier, I had created my mother's memorial service, so I wasn't surprised when my dad said, "Pastor, you don't have to worry about that. Denny will write it." The minister seemed surprised and asked me which denomination I attended. When I replied that I was a Unitarian Universalist, he stated that a member of the Methodist clergy would need to officiate at Dad's service. My dad immediately responded to Reverend Dave's statement with these words: "You will speak at my service because I need the assurance of the resurrection, and I don't think my son can provide that." As I walked Pastor Dave to the front door, I assured him I would compose a memorial service that would be appropriate for the Inglewood United Methodist Church. When I returned to the living room, Dad was obviously awake and alert, but unusually quiet. After assuring me he was fine, I went to the kitchen to prepare supper. Later that evening, while I encouraged him to eat, Dad asked, "Do Unitarian Universalists believe in grace?" After a few moments of thought, I said, "I'm a Unitarian Universalist, and my faith is grounded in the concept of grace. I believe that grace is the power that generates transformations and healing. I do believe in St. Paul's words. There are 3 things that last: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love." My father straightened and exclaimed in a rather surprised tone, "Well, that's exactly what I believe." My response was immediate. "I don't know why you should be surprised that we share the same core belief. After all, I am the ruling elder's son." Dad relaxed into his old recliner with a smile on his face and drifted into sleep. That night, as I loaded the dishwasher, I offered a prayer of thanksgiving for the faith of my father. I will conclude with these words, which were written by the late Reverend W. Edward Harris. Quote, "The church is not a place of right convictions, a fortress of truth, or a philosophy. The church is a community of those who have suffered loss, lived through it, and learned true compassion. We have a sense of awe and mystery about this world and this enterprise of living. We learn from each other, and for these reasons, we come to this special place, infusing it with hope. May it be so."
Wow, Dennis, thank you. In the tradition of Unitarian Universalism, congregations exist because of the generous support of members and friends. It is our privilege and our responsibility to ensure the health and future of this fellowship. We have several ways you can give. In the baskets being passed around, with the Venmo app made out to UUFCC offering, you can mail a check to the office. And if you are here for the first time, please do not feel obligated to give. You are our guests today. Now we'll accept the offering. And while the offering is being passed, the choir is going, everybody's going to sing hymn number 1052, I'll get it, in the teal hymnal, The Oneness of Everything. Thank you so much for your support for this fellowship. We appreciate your financial support. Now it's time to highlight UUFCC's events and activities. And the back of your order of service has this week's calendar. Also, the weekly update has a calendar, so please check that as well. And now, Patrick, would you like to come up?
Two things I wanted to mention. I am be selling raffle tickets for this Rainbow Bench. It's going to benefit the Port Charlotte, Charlotte County Pride event in October. So I'll have the tickets. They're $5 or 6 for $20. And now I would like to introduce Aubrey from Animal Welfare League, the Community Engagement Manager, and the Social Justice Committee has picked the Animal Welfare League for our focus for this month.
Hi, thanks for having me today, and thanks, Patrick, for inviting me. My name is Aubrey. I'm from the Animal Welfare League. We are Charlotte County's 501c3 nonprofit animal shelter here in Port Charlotte. We are just located off of Harborview once you come over the bridge on 41 coming into Port Charlotte. So we're kind of hidden back in there, but we have been around since the 1960s. So we are a no-kill shelter, which means we don't euthanize for space, and we have a 97% save rate. So we're very proud of that. We are a little bit different than most shelters. We have a contract with Charlotte County Animal Control. So we basically, any issues that Animal Control has, if there's a hoarding case or cruelty, or if they find a stray animal, they will pick up that animal and bring it to us where it's housed until it can be fully vetted or fixed if it has any medical issues or anything, and then we can adopt it out if there's no owner that comes forward. So a lot of other shelters don't. They kind of get to pick and choose the animals that they take, so we get a lot of difficult cases. Sometimes they need extra help and training, and we have to keep them there for quite some time. So we are quite full usually with animal control animals. So I have some numbers here. Just in August, our adoptions, we had 88 dogs adopted in August, and then we had 113 cats that were adopted in August, 2 guinea pigs, and 1 rabbit. Yeah, so that was great. Thank you. But so we adopted out 88 dogs, and ironically, we took in 88 dogs. Usually, it's not the exact number, so it kind of evened itself out, and we took in 144 cats and 4 rabbits. So it's a constant, need. So we're always grateful for the community adopting out animals, and sometimes we can transfer them out to other areas. But it is a daily, they're coming in daily. So currently, the animals that are in our care, we have 439. We rely really heavily on our fosters. In our foster program, we have 177 animals, so they're not all at our facility. But that brings me to my next point. We are always looking for adopters. Obviously, understandable, not everyone can adopt, but there are other ways that you can help. You can foster. That usually entails, right now we're in high kitten season, so there's a lot of feral cats that have litters of kittens that come to us. And they can't be adopted out until they're of a certain age and healthy and fixed. So we are always looking for fosters to help us with that. If you're interested, you can come see me after. I can give you my card and give you some information if you're interested in fostering. A lot of times we also have older dogs that are sick that can't be adopted out. So if you're ever wanting an older dog just to share your couch or sit with you, we can do that as well. Not all of our animals are available for foster. But if you'd like for information, like I said, please let me know. And then we're always looking for volunteers. So even if you have an hour a week or 3 hours a month, we'll take it. We have lots of laundry because we have animals and they are messy. So if you ever want to come and help us with laundry, you can help us with events. We usually have 4 or 5 events every weekend throughout the community. So there's lots of chances to volunteer. Like I said, no commitment, no you don't have to be there for hours and hours a day. If you would need any other information or would like to talk to me about fostering volunteering, please let me know. And we also have an exciting event coming up. If anyone that likes to golf, we have a golf classic that Deep Creek Civic Association is partnered with us at Deep Creek Golf Club. So that's a fun way to get out with the weather being nice coming up here. So we're excited about that. And thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And there is an adorable donation box, doghouse, if you've seen it, in the social hall. So for any donations.
Oh, Mike. Oh, really? Oh, gosh. It's Mike.
Good morning, everyone. Lori last week asked me to speak about the GEO Group, and we sort of slipped through the cracks. If you're not familiar with the GEO Group, I guess it was formed after Hurricane Ian by Lori and some of the others. But basically, it's geographically situated groups of members of this congregation. And the purpose of it is to stay in touch with each other following any sort of disasters. I am the point person of my group, which is very small, sort of on the northern Essex. But we try to stay in touch by email after the hurricane, basically saying, are you guys okay? Do you need anything? What's going on? And it's also a support group. It makes isolation less likely, and if you want to stay in touch, it's a good way to stay in touch. Okay, that's it.
Randy?
I'm Randy G. with the Social Justice Committee, and we have some upcoming events. And this is also an invitation for anybody and everybody who would like to join us in our meeting today. It starts at 11:45 approximately. What we have happening very shortly is this coming Saturday is a screening of The Fight, which is the ACLU's work to keep civility in our country now that we have some challenges. So that will be attended also by an administrator from the ACLU who will answer questions. So please come to our meeting. Thank you.
You want, okay, excuse me. What do I know?
Just a little add-on for the geographical group thing. If you want to be part of that, feel free to contact me or email me or Laura Anderson. You can email also, who's not here. But if you don't all have to be a member, you can be a friend too, and we're happy to connect with you. Thank you.
And I believe it's a really good thing for us to do this, especially if there's any hurricanes, to keep us together so we know what's going on with each other. Okay, calling all hackers, yankers, and pruners. Did you know we have those in this group? Please consider helping with the front parking lot cleanup this Thursday on the 18th of September at 9 o'clock, and Laura will be helping you, I think. And let's see, and Tom wants to know if there is an international stamp collector around. Okay. Is that it? Anybody else want to come up and make an announcement? You sure? Okay. Our closing words today are from Reverend Michelle Collins, the welcome we extend. As we leave this sacred hour, may the welcome we received become the welcome we extend. Let us meet the world with open hearts, open hands, and the audacity to build spaces where every soul feels at home. And now we'll extinguish the chalice by Craig Rowland. As we extinguish this chalice flame, may the warmth of its light remain with us, guiding our steps and our hearts. Let us carry forward the strength of this community, the courage to speak truth, and the hope that transformation is possible. In each breath we take, may we remember that the work of love, justice, and healing is ours to continue, both here and beyond these walls. Go in peace with the light of this gathering to illuminate your way. Now, as AJ extinguishes the chalice, please join me in reciting the words in the order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but in light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again. Thank you, AJ. Now, would you please rise in body and or spirit and sing number hymn 318 in the gray hymnal, We Would Be One. Enjoy some foodies and goodies.